Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin, and today I want to give you my reactions to Outdoor Retailer. 2 weeks in a row with a trade show reaction? Yeah, the Rock Fight has been out in them streets, and we have a lot to talk about. But first, if you send us your Apple Podcast review so we can send you a Rock Fight or Gear and Beer sticker, leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and then email us at myrockfight@gmail.com with your address and we'll get you all stickered up. For those of you who have already sent in your sticker reviews, we'll start shipping them out next week. If you don't listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please just rate the show, whether it's on Spotify or Pocket Casts or, I don't know, any of the other podcast platforms. Please leave us a 5-star review. And actually, you know what? Send us your email at myrockfight@gmail.com, and maybe you'll get a sticker. Okay, quick break, and then it's time to talk about Outdoor Retailer and start the show. This episode is brought to you by Switchback Spring, the new outdoor industry gathering for education, networking, and business. Coming to Nashville, June 2025.
That's Nashville, Nevada?
Dude,
Nashville,
it's
Oregon.
Tennessee, obviously.
I've never heard of it.
Connect with peers and players in gear, footwear, apparel, hiking, camping, trail running, and more for 3 days of learning, discovery, and celebration. You got a joke there?
No.
Switchback Spring is the new go-to meetup for specialty retailers, brands, media, and outdoor organizations.
You know, real quick, Switchback Spring does sound like a really potentially good like outdoor scent.
Like a deodorant?
Like a deodorant.
Flavor?
I'm actually gonna, as soon as we're done here, I'm gonna buy that URL. Oh, they probably already own it. Dang it. For like a backpacking specific deodorant. I think there's something there.
You could launch it at Switchback.
I think I will.
Mark your calendars for June 16 to 18, 2025. Visit switchbackevent.com for all of the details and start planning your new outdoor industry adventure.
And don't forget to wear your Switchback Spring deodorant, which will be available at all of the finest, crunchiest, granola-iest natural food stores coming 2025 if I can get my act together.
In the beginning, there was Outdoor Retailer, the one outdoor trade show to rule them all.
Okay, that's not true. In the beginning, there were people who started making money by outfitting other people who went into untamed and wild places. And that actually went on without a trade show for literally hundreds of years. Brands like Helly Hansen and Orvis who started making products to help the people of the day stay warm, cool, dry, and safe when doing elective or required excursions. But then, a scant 60-ish years ago, a new crop of brands started deploying new fabric and design technologies that enabled more fun times out of doors and thus broadened a world that had been previously pretty niche. Brands and retailers started to spring up, and before you knew it, a full-on industry was born. And what does an industry need if not a trade show? I don't need to go on much more, do I? Outdoor Retailer became the go-to national outdoor trade show in the United States, a twice-a-year gathering of the tribe that not only put the commerce-based arms of human-powered activities on display, but also attracted athletes, nonprofits, activists, and advocates. Along the way, it absorbed SIA and became even bigger, and it's a tale as old as time, right? The crown jewel event that everyone attended, and those who couldn't attend desperately wanted to attend. It became too large to fail, right? Well, if you're listening to this, you probably know the answer to that question. In the 20-teens, there were these big gaping cracks in the OR armor, with many of the attendees questioning the value of a show that had become very expensive to attend. Then came Utah's reaction to the Trump administration's rollback of protections for bears' ears, as well as a global pandemic, and when we finally rubbed the sleep from our eyes and took a look around, OR was demonstrably diminished. Fast forward a few more years, and last fall, after I glibly declared that OR was over based on the super thin exhibitor list that was registered for their winter market show, Sean Smith, the director of the show, came on the Rock Fight to talk about the state of the show, the changes they were making, and why there was reason to be optimistic about the upcoming summer show. He and his team then invited the Rock Fight to do a live event at the show so we could see ourselves. And credit to Sean and his team because, to be honest, even though I believed that they were putting in the effort to do more with the show when we spoke, I likely would not have attended had they not extended that invite. But they did. And as I record this, I've just gotten home after spending 2 days at Outdoor Retailer. So much like we did last week with GOA Connect, here's my instant reaction to what I saw after returning to the Salt Palace for an OR show for the first time since 2017. First up, and probably the most important, the show felt like it had real purpose. I can look back to the shows I went to in the mid-2000s, and as fun and extravagant as they were, there was always the conversation of, do we need to go to OR and spend all of that money? So it's kind of crazy to me to say that this show, here in 2024, really felt like one of the first ORs I've been to where the attendees were engaged and the floor was buzzing, not because it was jam-packed, but because people had a real reason to be there. Which is a great segue into my next point, which is smaller is better. Were any of the big, most well-known anchor outdoor brands in attendance? Nope. Off the top of my head, the brands that probably everybody knew the most were Sunbum and Climate, along with a few others. And that was awesome. The last time I went to OR was in 2022. And at that show, there were a handful of brands that were hanging on and exhibiting in a show hall filled with mostly new brands trying to make a name for themselves. And that show felt a little sad. The one that just ended was the opposite. There was a vibrancy. People seemed pumped. Those who had a booth were working it hard, and everyone I talked to said the same thing, that the vibe was high and the show felt fun, like something we could build off of. Thirdly, and speaking anecdotally, it seems that the new hosted buyer program worked, and that's one reason for all of the enthusiasm, because the brands that were there had someone to sell to. This show, OR, provided travel resources to encourage retailers to attend, and every brand I spoke to said they were talking to a lot of buyers. Now, I don't know who they were buying for or the caliber of the shops, but considering where the show has been over the past few years, this seems like a big change of pace. And it sounds like people were actually writing orders. I spoke to an exhibitor who was literally submitting an order he had just written. And I don't know if I've ever attended an OR that was a true buying show, where orders were actually written at the show. Now, one thing I said to someone, and I heard from others while I was there, is that they should change the name of the show, because those of us that remember peak outdoor retailer will continue to compare the way it used to be against what it is evolving into. The rationale being that when I say outdoor retailer, something springs to mind that doesn't quite match what the current iteration of the show is, and thus it does that current iteration a disservice. And I was pondering this on my flight home this morning, and I've actually changed my mind. And I've changed my mind for two reasons. The first is that back in the day, we used to make fun of the name outdoor retailer because there wasn't really any retail business being done. The show had become more of a marketing showcase, so we wanted to call it something that it actually was rather than call it a retail show. And based on what I saw the past 2 days, the name is actually on target. The people I spoke to in the booths were hungry. They're looking to sell their products to the buyers at the show. They happily made time for a podcaster, but that's not why they came to the show. And the second reason not to change the name? Mostly because just fuck that. I'm part of the old guard that's been lambasting the show in some form for years. And now, after OR has endured the rock throwing and mudslinging, they should rebrand entirely? Just because there's a contingent that's mad that we can't see all of our besties and then go close down the port of call every night doesn't mean that OR should change. We should probably give up the ghost and recognize that there were a large number of people at the show this week who have zero memories of the way it used to be. So, I've changed my mind. As long as this thing provides value and the name outdoor retailer is accurate, which for the first time in my experience, it seems like it is. All right, that's the show for today. Were you at OR? Want to send me your feedback? Or maybe you're surprised to hear how well I thought the show went? Either way, send an email to myrockfight@gmail.com. The Rock Fight is a production of Rock Fight LLC. We'll be back tomorrow on the Gear and Beer podcast feed, so go check that out. I'm Colin True. Thanks for listening, and here to take us out, it's a friend of ours. You know what I'm talking about, a friend of ours. It's Krista Makes with the Rock Fight Fight song. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.